Good evening, audience. Namaste, Pranam. This is our fifth edition of the STRIVE dialogues, and today we are going to discuss essentially about one of the chapters which we have written in our book published recently called "The Elephant Awakes: Strategic Reflections 2023." This book has 26 articles, of which Maj Gen Sudhakrjee has written one of the articles on the Russo-Ukraine war, the emerging world order. This is a very live and a current war, and therefore it becomes relevant for us to discuss this in further details. So we have got the expert himself on our channel, Major General Sudhakrjee. Welcome to you, General Sudhakar. First of all, let me tell my audience that General Sudhakar is a well-known expert on geopolitics, geostrategy, especially matters related to South Asia and even the global affairs, especially security-related issues. And he has been doing extensive research on China, especially as also. So we will be asking him questions related to the Russia-Ukraine war and the India-China dynamics as well as to how they relate with each other. Coming straight to the topic of discussion today, without wasting our time, uh, you see, Ukraine is at crossroads of today. It has major thing which has happened is that Bakhmut, now they call it as RTO mosque, has fallen, and the Russians are controlling it fully. The Wagner chief announced it a few days back. Then we have the counter raids taking place by the Russian Legion, Freedom of Russian Legion, in the Belgorod area to liberate the so-called settlers which have been settled in Russian territory along the border. But more interestingly, today there was a terror strike as per the Ministry of Defense of Russia report saying that 8 drones had struck Moscow. And that's a very very major incident. It kind of provokes and also gives an alibi to Putin to actually go in for some severe action against the Ukrainians. Uh, in fact, sensing this, EU foreign ministry spokesperson has said that Russia should not use this particular incident as a premise to launch fresh military operation. But on the other hand, Zelensky has actually announced that the counteroffensive is going to start very soon by Ukraine. I don't know from where. He's doing country hopping to seek aid. His weapons and ammunition are diminishing by the day. Where is he going to get the wherewithal in such a short span? Let us see. To discuss all this, we have Jan Sudhakar with us. Jan Sudhakar, let me ask you the first question. एंड ये जो क्वेश्चन है हम थोड़ा हिंदी और इंग्लिश दोनों में बात करेंगे क्योंकि हमारे ऑडियंस दोनों हैं, हिंदी में भी हैं और इंग्लिश में भी हैं। तो जो पहला क्वेश्चन जो दिमाग में आ रहा है कि ये रेड्स, काउंटर रेड्स और ड्रोन अटैक हो रहे हैं, वहीं पे रशिया यूक्रेन के ऊपर काफ़ी हमलावर है। उसने बाखमत, जिसको कि आजकल आरटीओ मॉस्क बोलते हैं, वो रशिया ने उसका नाम बदल दिया है, उसको पूरी तरह से कैप्चर कर लिया है। क्या देखते हैं आप? वेयर इज द वॉर हेडिंग? इज इट गोइंग टू कंटिन्यू लाइक दिस, और यू सी एन अर्ली कैपिटुलेशन ऑफ यूक्रेन ऑन द हैंड्स ऑफ रशिया? क्या आपका आपका क्या नजरिया है कि यूक्रेन हारेगा, हार जाएगा कुछ दिनों में?
So first of all, good evening to the general, and thank you very much for inviting me and giving me such a golden opportunity on this elite platform to articulate my thoughts and views. And also at the same time, let me take the opportunity of thanking Major General Ajay Chaturvedi, whose insistence actually made me to write an article. I was trying to wriggle out, domestic compulsion. And today I find I'm so privileged and lucky to be interviewed by none other than my DS, my directing staff, my instructor, whom I respect and hold him in high esteem. Whatever one is today, there are many people responsible, and he is one of them. Thank you so much, sir.
No
Coming
worries.
back to the question you are asking, well, these are my analysis and perspective. I personally feel to answer the question which you have posed, why Bakhmut? Why did Bakhmut took place or take place? The
Yes,
answer I would like, because it is very important for the viewers to understand, बागमत को क्यों कैप्चर किया, क्या था इतना इम्पोर्टेंट? बागमत को
that's
ऐसे कैप्चर किया इसलिए वॉगनर ग्रुप ने, ताकि ताकि ये एक नॉर्थ ईस्टर्न पोर्शन में एक कम्युनिकेशन सेंटर है, और यहां से मल्टीपल डायरेक्शन से आप यूक्रेन के ऊपर हमला कर सकते हैं। सबसे इंपॉर्टेंट है, यहां से ओपनिंग मिलता है कारकिव, और कारकिव के रास्ते से आगे अगर जाएंगे करीब 600-700 किलोमीटर आगे नॉर्थ नॉर्थ वेस्ट की तरह आ जाता है कीव। तो कीव और कारकिव जिसको इन्होंने खाली किए थे शुरू शुरू के लड़ाई में, दे वुड गेट एन ओपनिंग। इसीलिए ये लड़ाई बहुत जोरदार चला और 6 महीने से ज्यादा टाइम लगा। अभी भी छुट उनका काउंटर अटैक चलते रहता है, क्योंकि ये किसी भी हालत में रशियन फोर्सेस को, ये जो ओपनिंग में कह रहा हूं 6 रास्ता है अलग अलग दिशा में, 2 रास्ते जाते हैं कारकीव और कीव की तरह। अगर ये खुला मिल जाता है रशियन फोर्सेस को, तो ये हमला इस डायरेक्शन से बिल्डअप कर सकते हैं कारकीव और कीव, जिसको उन्होंने छोड़ के फरवरी मार्च अप्रैल के महीने में वापस आए थे, नॉर्दर्न फ्लैंक से ईस्टर्न फ्लैंक की तरफ शिफ्ट किए थे। तो दिस इज वन इंपॉर्टेंट पॉइंट आई वांट टू शेयर। आप जो सवाल कर रहे हैं सर कि क्यों, क्या है, व्हाट इज द फ्यूचर ऑफ दिस वॉर, एज पर माय एनालिसिस सर, द वॉर हैज अटेन्ड द स्टेटस ऑफ डिनाइबिलिटी।
okay.
To my understanding, when I say deniability, you yourself, you are a gray zone expert, you have written a book, sir. Deniability is a very complex and very, very superior status of conflict in hybrid warfare. And that too, मस्को के ऊपर हमला कर रहे हैं, 780 किलोमीटर दूरी है बॉर्डर से, यूक्रेन बॉर्डर से, और ये कहा जा रहा है कि टेररिस्ट कर रहे हैं, जबकि जेलेंस्की खुद बोल रहे हैं कि हम काउंटर ऑफेंसिव की तैयारी कर रहे हैं। जेलेंस्की के पास दम नहीं है आज के दिन में। हालांकि नाटो फोर्सेस, दे हैव गिवन अ क्लियरेंस, 98% ऑफ द रिसोर्सेस दे हैव प्रॉमिस्ड हैव बीन डिलीवर्ड टू जेलेंस्की और यूक्रेन। फिर भी वो क्यों नहीं कर रहा है? क्योंकि उसको पता है इसका नतीजा बड़ा खतरनाक हो सकता है। दैट इज व्हाई पर्सनली फील ही इज मेकिंग यूज ऑफ दोज रिसोर्सेस, ह्यूमन रिसोर्सेस, who either are disgruntled from Russian army, who have actually joined the Ukrainian forces or the mercenaries, and call it under any name, like you just said, the Russian Legion of Forces or something, attacking
Russian, freedom of,
Belgorod. Yeah, yeah.
of
Uh,
Russian legion,
these
freedom of
people,
Russian legion.
yeah, these people also could have possibly infiltrated, gone deeper into the Russian area and carried out organized attack. But the most challenging and critical issue is, क्या टेररिस्ट के हाथ में आज स्पेस का जो साधन है आ चुके हैं? क्या टेररिस्ट, क्या ये जो इसको जो प्रोफेशनल आर्मी ट्रेनिंग के बावजूद भी सही तरीके से कंट्रोल नहीं कर पाते हैं? स्पेस का मतलब मैं कह रहा हूं ऑटोनोमस सपोर्ट सिस्टम। Have the terrorists of Ukraine or the mercenaries started controlling the autonomous support system or the drones? Drones are not that easy to
यहाँ
operate.
पे,
Let me tell
यहाँ मैं आपको एक और चीज बताना चाहता हूँ कि नेविगेशन सिस्टम कुछ देर के लिए डिस्टर्ब हो गया था
you. ये
रशिया
देखिए,
का, जबकि
अच्छा
रशिया
ओके,
के पास, रशिया हैज its own captive GLONASS navigation system that you are aware of, but still
यस,
even that got disturbed. So obviously kahin na kahin I think you're right that there is something beyond Ukraine's capability which is
absolutely.
happening.
Absolutely, sir. Sir, striking a target or an objective 700 kilometers deep inside the territory without any external support. No terrorist organization in the world can do such a thing except for Osama bin Laden and people like him. So, have we
Yeah,
created another Osama bin Laden, sir? That is a question which is coming to my mind. And therefore, the question actually goes to the NATO forces. They are playing dirty. They are going beyond the commitment they have made. They have said any resources being given to Ukraine will not cross the boundary of Ukraine. If they are doing this, They are extending the conflict zone and extending the duration of the conflict. Therefore, this conflict is unlikely to finish very soon. It will carry on till eternity until the Western alliance stops supplying and make a commitment of not supplying these weapons and equipment to Ukraine, sir.
I think somewhere you are right, Sudhakar, that the whole thing is veering towards gray zone in a way to buy time. To me, it looks like that, to buy time for Ukraine to get prepared for a counter offensive, and then there is again a hard fought match which takes place between Russia and Ukraine. The relevant question is, why should Russia give this time to Ukraine? That's of importance. Why should it give the time to Ukraine to stabilize itself, get some more weapons, train on these new Western weapons? Because obviously they were fighting till now on the Eastern Eastern Bloc weapon systems, which were except for few systems like Mars, etc., which were coming from the US. But by and large, it was the Eastern profile weapon system. Those have all gone fut. They've finished. They've fired them off. So why should the Russians give them some time for this?
Yes, sir, excellent point, sir. This thought also even came to my mind. Why I have been thinking through and through all this while. The answer that comes to my mind is I think Russians have achieved what they wanted to achieve, sir. Bakhmut,
Okay.
that question, going back to the same question, why Bakhmut? They bought 6 months' time to consolidate the defense, to fortify the defenses, withdraw towards this side, eastern side of Dnieper River, and and hold the defensive, strategic defense location in a
Yes,
manner
yes, yes.
so
You're
that they
right.
can
You're right.
lead back any kind of counter offensive
I,
and keep
I,
the bridge, land bridge open to Crimea, sir. That is the main aim, sir.
I think they used RT Mosque, or now erstwhile Bakhmut, as a meat grinder. They
Meat
attracted
grinder.
all
Yes, I agree with you, sir. I agree
they,
with you, sir.
they attracted all the Ukrainian forces there and then
Yes,
defeated them systematically.
yes,
They have really suffered badly in
absolutely.
Artyomas.
I totally agree with you.
So, coming down to the next question, because we have very limited time, we have decided to finish in half an hour. Uh, uh, how do you see the global world order changing now? Are you going to see a East-West alliance emerging, or East-West and a third bloc being led by India? Your views?
Uh, so, global order, as I understand, as per my perception and interpretation, has got direct linkage with alliances. What are alliances? Why do we form alliances? Alliances are related to threats. Threats in geopolitics or in global order. Earlier during the कोल्ड वॉर के टाइम में ये जियोपॉलिटिकल बेस्ड थ्रेट्स हुआ करते थे. आज के दिन में 1991 के बाद जब बाइपोलर से यूनिपोलर हो गया, यूएसए ने बहुत कोशिश किया यूनिपोलर लीडरशिप दिखाने के लिए, लेकिन इफेक्टिव हो नहीं पाया अभी तक कोई भी दिशा से. तो अभी मेरे अंदाज से ये जियो इकोनॉमिक्स पैराडाइम की तरफ शिफ्ट हो गया है, or there
Oh,
is a mixture of geopolitics and geoeconomics. So, therefore, when we talk about the alliance, 200 years is a long time. So, the Western Alliance, they created an architecture. That architecture is holding out for good. And they created such kind of apex organization, good, bad, ugly. They are able to keep some kind of orderliness in the confused and disorderly global order. So, therefore, in my view, I would say that take your mind back to the First and Second World War. I personally feel it was a case of classic example of multipolarity. In multipolarity, anyone and everyone, any vertical can change sides. Like Italy changed sides. Like Germany, after having signed an agreement with USSR, they still attacked USSR. Those are the kind of dynamics. So things are very unpredictable. Threats, and this can assume the status of hybrid threats. But now what is happening is in multipolarity, there is some form of multipolarity. One, because bipolarity is over, unipolarity is almost declined. Now there is a case of multipolarity. Why am I saying this? Is this 21st century is marked with very prominent and conspicuous milestones. One of the milestones is Russia having actually invaded Ukraine. Ukraine, all of us, we know that it is a aspiring NATO country, aspiring. I'm not saying it is an ally, nor am I saying it is a member. It is an aspiring member of NATO. And to invade a country of Ukraine, nature of Ukraine, and that too in the Eastern Europe and at the beginning of 21st century is a clear signal and defiance to the ongoing global order. The ongoing global order is unipolarity. This also had been clearly indicated. Take your mind back to 2004. ये 2004 को जब 7 देशों ने बाल्टिक नेशंस के थे, लिथुआनिया, लैटविया एंड विच इज द थर्ड कंट्री सर, 3 देश है वहां पे, एक के लग के एक है, और ये तीनों देश और 4 देश, टोटल जो है 7 देश फटाफट नाटो के साथ ज्वाइन कर लिए थे. दैट वाज द डे व्हेन पुतिन हैड एक्चुअली टेकन अ कॉल दैट रशिया कम व्हाट मे will show its military might and come back to power. So after that, 2008, again, it invaded Georgia. And despite the clear indication to Bush that Ukraine is a red line, and 2014, and thereafter we all know the Crimea was invaded. So all I am saying is that by and by, this invasion of Ukraine has been a clear indication of challenge, posing a challenge, open challenge to the unipolarity. And therefore, Russia is not the end all and be all. There are multipolars which are coming out, like China is one. Saudi Arabia is being called as the middle kingdom of West Asia now. There are new dynamics which are evolving. Iran
And
and
not
Saudi
to
Arabia.
not to forget Turkey. Erdogan has won the second time.
Absolutely. Turkey is back to power again, sir. And this old man and Ottoman Empire, people are cursing that he has come back to power, yet he is back to power. So these are the dynamics. What I wish to highlight in response to your question, sir, is that, sir, transatlantic relationship. When I say transatlantic, what I mean is that it is USA, Canada, European Union, and UK. All this put together, they have held out very well and effectively the global order. But now, what was relevant in the 20th century is not relevant in the 21st century. So, what is it? The threat. When you talk about the threat in terms of geopolitics, the threat to the European Union is totally different today than the threat to the USA and Canada, sir. USA and Canada, they are looking at China, containment of China. China is a big threat. Whereas Europe today, they are least actually bothered about tanks of Russia coming and invading them. They are more worried about the people from Africa. Why? In 1950, sir, the population of Africa was twice less than that of Europe. Today, the population of Europe, the population of Africa was lesser. Now it has gone double the population of Europe, sir. There is a migration taking place into Europe from Africa. The only way
Especially
to
France.
actually hold them captive is to invest money in Africa, sir, so that the socio-economic development takes place. These people are employed in Africa, and for that, who's the maximum? Which country is investing maximum money in Africa today, sir? It is China. Next to China is India, I suppose. And as such, if you take
So
account as per the GDP terms,
India is not very far behind. China is around
yeah, yeah,
$75 billion. India is about $70 billion. So
70
we
million.
are
Yeah, yeah,
there.
I agree
Yeah,
with
we
you,
are
sir.
there.
But the
We are there.
point I'm trying to bring out is that the threats for the European Union or Europe is different today than the threats to that of America. If they can join together, this Ukraine war was basically to galvanize the forces of transatlantic stakeholders. They, to large an extent, they have been able to do it, sir.
A follow-up of your question is related to the global world order is that you are now saying that there's going to be a multipolarity, which is a good thing in a way as far as India is concerned. But it has thrown a challenge for India, and that challenge is that Russia, China, getting together very close, especially after the Ukraine crisis has commenced, and the India-Russia relationship, which is somewhat getting disturbed because of our slightly edge towards the West. How do you see this relationship emerging in the future? India-Russia and China-Russia. How is India going to navigate through this complex situation, the international
It's a
geopolitical
fantastic
situation?
question, sir. In matters of geopolitics, it's a very relevant and pertinent question, sir. I would say in any combination of alliances, if there are two adversaries, What does India do? In case of China, Pakistan, Russia, and India, there are two adversaries, one to the west and one to the north. So in that case, we are left with no option but to latch on to that evergreen, higher than the Everest and deeper than the ocean kind of relationship with Russia, without whom, even after the dependency on Russia is well taken care of, I personally feel there are issues which keep us dependent on Russia for eternity. We cannot actually survive or continue as an independent autonomous state without the support of Russia. Firstly, it is a P5 country, number one. Number two, it is not only the tanks and the aircrafts we are dependent on Russia. We are dependent for many other things, for space, for technology, for cyber, name a thing, sir, for mineral, for oil, for gas, for anything and
Absolutely,
everything. So
absolutely. Especially after the
therefore,
war, we
yes,
are
sir. What I mean
absolutely,
to is, sir, that
yeah.
India, it will be prudent on India's part to follow what our foreign minister has been often heard articulating multi alignment. In a short, cryptic expressions, he has been saying multi alignment. Wherever our national interest is suited and benefited, we must latch on and have developed a rapport with that country. Wherever it doesn't, we just withdraw ourselves. Russia is very, very beneficial to us, sir, for two things. One, China and Pakistan, as it is, the Western alliances have forced Russia to embrace China. Only element left is Pakistan. Pakistan has been going out of the way to develop permanent relationship with Russia, sir. Therefore,
That's
India must remain engaged with Russia in order to keep both these enemies or adversaries away
that,
from it.
that's a very important point which you brought out, that Pakistan is trying to go cozy with Russia in some form to create a Russia China Pak alliance to edge out India further from this particular regional geopolitics is concerned. But an additional point which I would like to add to your reasoning is what Colonel RP has thrown up a point that, despite the fact that we have a enduring relationship with Russia, but we have to also be grounded in terms of the fact that we have to go and move towards indigenization. Atmanirbhar Bharat has to continue, so that, and on a rapid pace, so that we are able to de-link ourselves and become less vulnerable on external forces. I think you would
I,
agree with.
I totally agree with what Colonel R.P. Singh sir has given out, and also I need to remind him that it will be it will be foolish on our part not to be mindful of the fact that indigenization on Atmanirbhar Bharat is not an overnight milestone. It takes a
Absolutely.
lot of time. A baby takes 9 months to take birth, a human child.
Yeah.
Atmanirbhar Bharat will take a 30-year cycle to come into
Will
some kind of a tangible form. 30,
will
40 years. You need deep pockets. You need lots of funds and budgets. R&D has to be actually given a real boost. Today our R&D is 0.80%. And when you compare with South Korea and other countries, we stand nowhere. And our country, our priorities need to be given towards socio-economic development as of now. So issues
I
like that.
think, yeah, yeah, I think you're right. It's not an overnight process, but we have to move towards that, and that is what I think RP was mentioning. And there's no denial on that point, right? Coming down to our next important question, which is related to the topic today, and also to the article which you have written, and that is, do you see, because of this on and off war, getting heated up, then getting down, going into gray zone, getting into sabotage, the Nord Stream sabotage I'm talking about. So it is getting more and more complex, and it took one bullet for the World War I to start. So what I'm trying to say is, do you think that the situation, which is a very special situation, never happened since the World War I, where European land is now undergoing a war of a very, very large scale, a World War III breaking out? Although a lot of people have said no. Why I'm saying is that very recently there was a face-off between the strategic bombers of the US and the Su-27 fighter of the Russians, who tried to then shoot them off. Although later on, both of them gave a statement that these were the routine routine kind of flight, and they went and informed them that they are crossing the borders, so or the airspace, and therefore they returned back. But there is more than what meets the eye in that moment, and I'm reminded of the Cuba Missile Crisis. There's something, a move of that nature. Do you think a spark like this could just boom, the World War III starts?
So you have been my instructor. I take pride in saying, as a student, I have read this book number of times. I
Yeah,
hope it is seen by the viewers.
yeah.
Ray Dalio is a very eminent author, sir, and all that he says, anything that takes place once in the global order is bound to repeat. So having said this, what I'm coming to is, that theoretically speaking, we are heading towards a third world order. But rationally speaking, spiritually speaking, as a human being, the world after the pandemic is not in a position to accept any more disasters, any more pandemics, any more economic recession. The livelihood, the global south is actually suffering. Ultimately, the developed nations, G7 nations, couldn't care less about the global south. It is the voice of global south headed by India which is making some substantive contribution to bring about rational into a thought process and bring in some sense of responsibility to the global order. If that is to be given due respect, I think we should not bid for third world war. We should all get together as a world order and prevent these two nations or these two stakeholders going or heading towards third world war. It is not going to be beneficial to anybody for that matters.
I think you have made your point very clear, but a very important aspect which I would like to add to your argument, and that is that the role of the UN has to now become, very important, and India and the powers that are not part of P5 have to get together and work towards ensuring a world order which will negate such a possibility. Although you yourself said, as per the book written by Dalio, that what happened in the past repeats itself. Let's hope it does not get repeated. But the jury is still out. We are not very sure whether the situation will come under control. Although the Western nations are giving a hint that if you do not, if you're not able to get back your land in the counter-offensive which you are trying to refer to, then we are not going to support you anymore further, and probably push Zelensky to, for on the peace table, negotiation table with the Russians, and accept their terms and conditions. So that may be sounding a good noise to the people, that if this is
Yes,
a situation which is occurring in the West, possibly we will avoid a World War III, but we can't say for sure. So
correct.
we had a very nice discussion, but we have got a lot of questions, and I think we need to ask few of them. Let's go to Ashok Pandey's question. That is the first one, because he had posted it before the video started, and you can read it on your screen. What will be of interest is the lesson we can draw with reference to a likely war with China. I think you're a China expert. With the way Russia-Ukraine war is going on, do you think there is any relevant lessons for India, as far as India has to, if India has to fight China, the differences and the similarities?
Yes, lots of differences, lots of similarities, sir. The first and foremost difference is the geography between India and China. We have a huge, mighty Himalayas in between, but that used to be a myth, which we used to say as long as the Himalayas are there, there is no fear or danger of any threat coming from the north. That myth has been collapsed or it has been broken in 1962, and that threat is building by the day, sir. That is one. Second difference, I would say that here is a huge landmass. The China is defined by a kind of a landmass. North-south distance is approximately 5,600 kilometers, and east-west, roughly, if I recall, it's around 5,400, five thousand
Yeah,
five hundred kilometers.
it's
So,
about
if
two
this is
million
the
kilometers.
dimension of China, and you compare with Ukraine, Ukraine is just about 1,100 kilometers east, west to east, and north south is 5 to 600 kilometers. The geography makes a lot of difference, and most important, more than the geography, is that there is a plateau. They are rolling down from the plateau towards our side. In our case, we have to actually climb the hills. The steep gradient is a very, very big challenge. This is a very big difference. And as far as the infrastructure development is concerned, China has pumped in past 30, 40 years. They have brought in the forces very close to the border. They have got 628 border villages. They have optical fibers. They have got the oil pipeline. They are building the railway network, which is coming up as close as to Nathula Pass towards Siliguri corridor. They are threatening at Doklam. Likewise, and they have started surveying the entire border of the Indo-China border, all along the border, and they started harnessing the mineral which is used as a rare earth element significantly. And a place like Longju, they have got a mine over there, which it is the same Longju which they had captured in 1959, and now that small tiny hamlet has turned into a huge cosmopolitan city. They're actually excavating gold and mining gold out of it, very high grade quality of gold, and other minerals, copper, zinc, etc., etc. Towards the Aksai Chin, they have got a zinc mine, seventh largest zinc mine towards the Aksai Chin. So these are the kinds of things. But the similarities I would like to bring out is that the future conflict, which all of us thought to be short and swift, that has been actually given a new kind of a look and
Absolutely,
understanding.
absolutely.
That is the extent.
And that's a
Conflict
very
is not
important point which you have raised.
for 7 to 10 days. It is going to be extended beyond any stipulated timeline. Number one. Number two, energy security is going to play a very important role. China, as a nation which is energy starved, is totally dependent on sea lanes of. I'm purposely bringing out sea lanes of communication because that is actually highlighting the areas or the metrics which India should be looking at to choke China. The sea lanes of communication and the CPEC and CMEC will be important. Third and most important point is that the population internal stability is going to be of a huge, huge importance. In case of China, there is a huge question mark as far as the internal stability is concerned. As far as the
You're,
minerals and the resources are concerned,
I
Ukraine
would,
is a
I would,
resource-rich country.
I would like to add here that today itself there has been a unrest in Yunnan. The authorities were destroying a masjid, and the people
Absolutely. Yes, sir. It was in the
people
news. Correct.
defended it. So that's a very good point which you have brought in. Yeah,
Yes, yes, that's and more so. They also the size of the navy. They may have 350 or 400 vessels, but they are not good enough. They are not good enough today. If we carry out a comparison, US may be a declining power, but look at the number of the military bases they have between USA and UK. They are almost close to 900 military bases all over the world. In case of China and Russia, they have got just about 40 or 45 of them. So China has a long way to go. There may be actually the technology threshold may be higher, and USA and other countries may be at par or maybe better for the time being. It will take a long time for China to come up to that particular stage. And last but not the least is that China and India are something like we are evergreen rivals. We are arch rivals because not because we want to be, but because of the necessity of geopolitics and the what do you say the geocentric geoeconomics in the global order today, sir. The dependence of India, despite our best effort, has become so deep rooted that unless something drastic as a short, medium, and long term steps are taken by the government of India, it will be very difficult to decouple with China. So, therefore, we must learn how to live and yet remain prepared to contest and compete and also go in for a conflict to give a fitting response to China. Back to you, sir.
uh, a related follow up of this is that many people in India talk about why we don't name China. We tell everything against China in our international statements, etc. But we stop short of naming it. Whenever we call in terms of its revisionist policy, expansionist policies, etc., or one China policy, we do not refer to them as such directly. So, do you think it is because of the reasons which you have brought out that we have to tread our path a little more carefully before we can start taking some very direct actions or direct statements against China?
Very quick response to the question, sir. They themselves have formulated something called a three warfare strategy. They
Yeah.
themselves have adopted like wolf warrior diplomacy, debt diplomacy, etc., etc. And also, they are silent on one issue, sir. The only thing which China is scared of when it deals with India is the media, sir. Anything that gets, when we call up something or call out loudly, they're very, very scared of. So between the kind of bravado we are putting up and the kind of calling their military might a bluff right since post 1962, the kind of image we are trying to project as far as India is concerned, there is also a silent understanding. That understanding is in relation to the threshold of acceptance of China, beyond which China will be compelled to react or respond in a much more vigorous and intense manner. Therefore, I think, to my understanding, we deliberately keep it closer to play our cards more deftly in a diplomatic manner so as to derive maximum benefit from our or leverage our relationship with the Chinas.
I think somewhere that seems to be the major compulsion as far as India is concerned. Viewers, I would like to once again request all of you to kindly like, subscribe to our channel, and hit the bell icon so that we are able to notify you in advance what exactly we're going to discuss. I would also like to add here that tomorrow we are going to discuss the explosive situation in the Northeast with Lieutenant General Shokeen Chauhan, who was the former DG Assam Rifle and the advisor to government of India on security issues related to the Northeast. He has spent almost 15-20 years in the Northeast, studying the people of Northeast and studying the dynamics of Northeast. So put your schedule of the calendar fixed for tomorrow 10 o'clock for this. And with that, I would also like to inform Sudhakar that a lot of comments and questions are coming, and it will be very difficult for us to take all of them. But I would like to show you one comment which has come from Anil, and that shows, in my opinion, the Russians are waiting for change in American power structure, which will arise after the elections. So maybe they are looking at Sun Tzu to win the war without fighting, and hoping that Biden is not going to win the next time, because the way they are putting up information about Biden, they call him as Leiden, Leiden, that a person who keeps lying. So they have been targeting on the Telegram. I have been seeing that in a very, very vicious manner against Biden. So, and the Russians are good at information war. Do you think there is some truth in what this comment is?
Uh, yes, to large an extent, sir, I do agree with uh, the perception and the prediction in this statement. While writing the article, I almost wrote about this and gave a forecast, but fortunately, the chief editor he said, "No, you prune down the length of your article." So I cut out all this. So I had given
Okay.
an option as far as the if Trump comes back to power, then
Okay.
the war, the ongoing conflict is bound to undergo a shift in its dimensions.
Either
So
Trump or any Republican, I would say.
sorry, okay. At that point in time, Trump was playing in my mind that he is the hero, and
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
any
You're right.
Republican now. So I tend to agree with, but now my mindset is changing, sir. I need to actually share my concern that
Hmm.
America is in a very weak wickets as on today, sir. It is not about the debt alone. You've been in states, sir. You've done the courses. You know US as much or rather better than many of us. The finer fabric of America is started showing signs of very serious breakdown,
Yeah. It's
collapse.
almost on a daily basis now.
And the country, besides, it is not the aircraft carrier or the submarines that you have or the nuclear power that you have. It is not end all and be all. What matters for a superpower to be strong is I have met the veterans myself. There are a number of them. You have come in contact with these veterans. Sir. Today, veterans, they have a post conflict, some psychotherapy, something, sir.
Yeah.
Uh,
PTSD.
PTSD. These people, the
Post
numbers are
PSTD, post stress traumatic disorder.
post stress trauma. The number of these veterans who went back to from Iraq, I got a chance to meet them in California, and the California is the actually Harris constituency is there, and one came across number of these people interacted with them, they're in terrible shape, sir. The total money they get is around 20,000 something as far as the US norm. And they have a standard size of the family is husband, wife, and two children. For four members, the government has laid down that they will get so much of amount in any kind of re-employment service, so that is as a salary. They have not been getting that much. The social security itself is not very assuring, not regular. There are many issues which are coming up, and the gun culture, the economy is collapsing. Economy is the central spine of any nation to grow. If that is collapsing with such a huge debt, perhaps America has to do a lot of introspection, sir. They have to do a lot of soul searching to revive, rejuvenate the country from within, not by triggering conflict in places like Ukraine against Russia. That is
Yeah.
not going to take them anywhere, sir. Nor against supporting Taiwan and pitching a battle against the China. That also is not going to take them anywhere. The global order has come a long way to bring some kind of sane, some kind of rational thoughts. Sit down, talk it out, diplomacy, dialogue, and nobody better than India, sir.
Thank you, Jan Sudhakar. It had been a wonderful evening with you. We had a nice discussion on the very relevant topic, and you are right. It is time now to sit down. What India has been professing, that peace can only be the answer to all this, and the peace can only be achieved through dialogue and talks. As also, I keep maintaining reorganizing and restructuring our UN, United Nations. Otherwise, United Nations today is a defunct organization, and we are seeing an increase in conflicts because of that. Thank you very much, Jan Sudhakar. A very good evening to you. Good night, listeners. Hope you all will join us, and thank you very much. Please like, subscribe to our channel, support us. We are a new platform which have just started, and this is the sixth episode of ours. And we promise to bring you almost every second day one episode or the other, and it will be on a very relevant and current topic. As of now, we are discussing our book which we have published. It is available on the Amazon. Elephant Awakes: Strategic Reflections 2023. Thank you very much. Good night.
Thank you, sir. Good night, sir.